As Cedric said, my name is Sam Huber. I'm the founder CEO of Admix, and we are a monetization solution for VR AR, helping creators, developers generate revenue from their amazing content. So just wanted to share a little bit of the agenda and the things that we are going to run through today. So we'll start to discuss why monetization is important. Oh, I don't see that on my screen. Can't close it. Okay, great. So we'll start off with discussing why monetization is important. It might sound obvious, but it's going to become more and more important, looking for different ways to monetize. Then a little bit of background about Admix, what we're building and why we are building it this way. And then, of course, this is a workshop, so we'll dive into the technology, how our technology actually works, and I'll show you an actual demo, full demo from how it would take, what it would take to actually integrate this plugin if you were to use it yourself. And then we have some of our existing developers using our technology that will jump on stage and also explain what they think about Admix and how it's tailored to their particular use case. And then if we have time, I think we will we'll go through some questions and answers. But again, this is a workshop, so it's supposed to be interactive. So if you have questions at any moment, please don't hesitate to just raise your hand and ask your questions. That would be really great. Before I start, I'd love to know, what kind of crowd we're working with. So how many of you are actually creators and building VR, AR applications? Great, quite a few. Awesome. Right. So recently I wrote an article for the Next Web, which was why paid VR content is already dead, which is a bit of a clickbait title, but there's some real substance to it. And the idea here is that alternative ways to make money for VR, AR developers is going to become more and more and more important over the next few years. We've done some analysis. We found that today only 18% of VR apps are actually free on the App Store, and the rest range from $1 up to $100 for some of them. And this is, of course, a ratio that is very much skewed towards paid applications. And I firmly believe that this is going to drastically change over the next few years and follow a curve like this over the next decade, where in 10 years from now, a vast majority of apps will be free. And this ratio is going to jump from about 18% today, double over the next 2 years. Why is that? Well, we all want VR and AR, and we all believe that this is going to become a new computing platform, really a platform that is going to transform lives across the board and reach millions and millions of people. Right now, this is not really the case. Right now, we're talking about an audience of early adopters that are willing to pay a lot of money for early stage technology, and therefore also willing to pay for content. They love everything VR, AR related. They don't really think about money like the rest of the audience would. But as we're going to go more mainstream and we're going to target not only the early adopters, but a massive wide audience that will need VR for all kinds of things, these people are going to react differently to pricing. And therefore, they are not going to be willing to pay $49.99 for every type of application. There will always be people willing to pay. There will always be the paid model, especially for games. We know that gamers are happy to do that. But VR, AR is going to be a lot bigger than games. There will be all kinds of applications from entertainment, commerce, training, manufacturing, education, everything. A lot of these apps will have to be free, or at least working on a different type of price point. And this is the reason why, if we want VR, AR to become this global scale media and really reaching hundreds of millions of users, it needs to find an alternative business model for content besides paid content. And I'm not just inventing this or making things up. This is exactly what happened on the mobile market, which during the last 10 years, effectively. When the App Store launched, we had about 20% of the apps which were free applications. And then the ratio went down up to close to now 6% as of last year. So of course you can think, okay, this is, we're talking about VR, AR against mobile. Is it really the same thing? I think that if we want VR and AR to really become this new computing platform, then we have to benchmark it against mobile, not against game consoles, because VR, AR is not going to be limited to games. So I think it's a great comparison, and we've seen that happen before. We've seen that initially it was a lot easier to develop paid content, but eventually new ways to make money through the medium appeared and made it a lot easier for developers to be able to scale. We know that today, the cost of media has been commoditized. Most people are happier to pay on a subscription basis or try before they buy effectively, which is really the case with free-to-play. So all these mechanics that really shaped the mobile ecosystem over the last 10 years will be transferred to the VR, AR ecosystem. And I predict that by next year, we'll see already a lot more free applications. Sorry. So knowing that, what does it mean? To be able to go free, basically the creators need two things. They need an audience, okay, which is building up. It's not just right there yet, but we know that this is going to work out, and the audience is growing every day. But they also need a proper infrastructure, proper tools to be able to really maximize the value of their user base. And that's really what Admix is about. We are here to create this infrastructure for the creators. We want to build tools, a full ecosystem for them to be able to capture value from their existing user base, as little as this user base may be. And then in the future, we'll be looking at acquiring more users once you're actually able to already monetize them. So this is really what Admix is about. And the idea came to me when I was running my previous company, which was a game studio, which was very small. We had 7 people. But we grew quite successful with very limited resources and actually sold one of our games that got featured at CES in 2015. It was a simple trading simulation, like an arcade mode, one of the first ones back in the day. And the reason why we were able to scale it was because we had access to all that infrastructure. So we had 6 people, we could focus on building an amazing game, amazing mechanics. We didn't really have to worry about analytics. We didn't really have to worry about monetization, about user acquisition. All this stuff were taken care of by other companies. And we were just kind of plugging the gaps and deciding, okay, we're going to use this for monetization. We're going to use this to acquire users. And it meant that that infrastructure was already there. When I decided to build VR instead, I very quickly realized that the infrastructure was not there. And so right now as a creator, you're really left on your own, where not only you have to build the content, but you also have to find users yourself. You also have to, if you want to measure something, you kind of have to build your own tools. And so we want to take that pain away from the developers and take care of the growth infrastructure layer so that you guys can focus on building amazing content. So the first thing that we're putting in place through our monetization platform is monetization through advertising. Over my previous company, we used, in less than 2 years, we tried out 17 different monetization SDK from AdMob, Unity Ad, Chartboost, Vanguard, all of them. And they all had kind of two main problems. The first one was that they would create a terrible experience. There was no other way that you could do it. It was really, you couldn't compromise on that. Whether it's a banner at the bottom of the mobile screen or a video playing before the content starts, it was really annoying users, and we could see that although we were monetizing well in the first couple of days, retention would drop immediately. And the more ads we added, the more retention would drop. It was a very, very clear relationship. And the second problem is the lack of control. As a creator that has spent maybe, it was a very simple game, so we spent less than 6 months building it, but 6 to 12 months, let's say, for a normal game. You spend all this time, engineering, designing every little detail, and then when the day where you decide to monetize, you basically slap this ad on top. And you can't control the position, you can't decide where it plays, when it plays. It's really a different layer that is really disturbing the entire mechanics, the entire game that you've designed so far. So intrusiveness and lack of control were two really, really big problems. So when we decided to build Admix and really take all the best things that we knew about that infrastructure on the mobile space and transfer it to VR and AR, we also wanted to make sure that we were removing what didn't work. And so intrusion is something that we didn't want, obviously. because even though it's already really painful on mobile, if you're in VR, AR, and you have a banner or a pop-up, this is next level. You can't escape it. So that kind of intrusion wouldn't be tolerated at all in XR. So that was really part of our DNA from day one to remove this. And the second thing is the control. Instead of simply being a plug-and-play solution, although it's still very, very easy to integrate, the idea is like you can control your advertising experience. For the very first time, advertising and the creative process are not two disjointed layers, but actually you get to control your advertising experience. Just like you create buildings, you can actually create billboards and monetize on top of that. So this is really what we're trying to do. Is trying to integrate brands that are also learning about this new media. So it's another trend that is playing out at the moment. How can we integrate them in a way that is super native and create advertising that works for the end user? It's the most important. For the developers, the creators, so that they make good revenue. And also for the brands, of course, we need to find a right balance between the three parties to make this a successful relationship. So that's it for the beginning of the talk. Now I'm just going to show you actually how this works, but I'd love to answer any question about the theory before we jump into this. Yeah? Just speak loud.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Here you go.
So first of all, thanks for coming and giving this presentation. It's really exciting to see as a developer in the space. I'm curious, I think there was an announcement that I saw a few weeks ago about Google doing something in the advertising VR, AR space. So I was just curious if you could speak to kind of what they're doing and what you're doing differently and how we should be thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably referring to the AR ads in YouTube, probably. So, advertising in VR, AR is not something that we've invented. Companies are doing it. You have Omnivert, for example, has been quite successful, mostly on 360 videos. And Google also, looking at AR and of course Facebook, how you can create AR advertisement per se. So the main difference between these guys and us is that we care first about the publisher, the creator, not the advertiser. So what Google is doing is saying, hey, you can put cool AR ads in YouTube. So who's making the money? It's YouTube. It's not the creators. What we're doing here is giving a tool to you guys, to the creators, so that they can generate revenue themselves from the content. So although it's kind of like in the same industry, it's a 180 degrees difference in terms of the view. We're putting the creators first, and we're actually putting standard ads in VR and AR, whereas Google, Facebook, they're putting AR ads on standard websites or apps. So it's just a different way to look at it.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, my name's Steve, and I see you guys on Facebook, and I just want to say they are doing great stuff with their Facebook page. They're always offering free lists, and it's really, really encouraging the stuff that you guys are offering for free. So thank you for that.
Thanks,
Second, you're mentioning potential advertisers. Do you have a list, or are you seeking out depending on the game, or how does that work?
You mean to find advertisers for our game?
Right.
Yeah, so I'll explain a bit how it works. The beauty of the solution is it's fully programmatic, meaning it's effectively automation in terms of how we are selling those spaces to advertisers. So we have a sales team going to brands, agencies, and trying to convince them to look at this new media and placing their brands in this environment. But mostly it all happens automatically. Just like when you refresh a web page, you have ads coming in. A lot of this stuff is programmatic based on where you are based and maybe a bit of information that they may have. They will try to serve you relevant advertisement. So we bring that scalable part of advertising to XR, which guarantees instant and continuous revenue for the developers.
Any other questions?
Cool.
Back to you.
Let's jump into it. So you guys will recognize Unity. I just want to say haven't been using Unity for a long time, and I'm just on the pad here, so please forgive my precision as I move around. So we have built two SDKs, one for Unity, which is used by most developers, and also one for Unreal, which is currently in beta. And we're also working on native SDKs for C#, C++. So I'm just going to do a quick demo of how it works for Unity. So Unity being an open platform, you can download our asset package, which would then install Admix here on the main menu. Basically, open Admix, you can create an account. It's very, very quick. It's all free. And then from there, you can see you have a big button here to start creating inventory. So inventory is an ad term, which is the space that you would then sell to the advertisers. You create the space first, and then we will sell it for you. So I took a simple scene here, which is a motorway, and basically it's now up to the creator to decide which areas, which zones of the content should be suitable for advertisers. So we don't do that. It's really up to you. We have incredible amount of variety in terms of how developers approach this. Some of them just put a couple of ads, making sure it's hyper relevant. Some of them put as many as they want. Of course, the more you put, the more money you generate, but it has a downside in terms of user experience. So we leave that decision completely to the creators. We just offer the tools here. So I can just create a simple example where, for example, we can see this fake ad here, fake billboard. So instead, I want to actually put an ad on it and monetize it for real. So on the Admix console, we can see different ad formats, which are completely standard, so the advertisers already support them on the other end. We currently support video, which is a flat video, and banners, and we're also currently pioneering 3D advertisement, which I'll talk about in a bit. So we have different formats, vertical ones, long ones. This one, 6x5, is the most popular, so I can decide basically which format I want to use and just add it to my scene. So I click Add Banner, and then the banner just appears as an object in the scene. It's really, really simple. And from there, it's about placing it properly. So I'm going to do that here. Make sure it's not too far from the surface. And then you have the normal tools, the normal control that you would have for any other object in your scene. So, for example, I can make it bigger. Of course, you have to respect the aspect ratio, which is locked, but other than that, you can pretty much make it as big as you want. Making sure it's visible in the scene, very, very important. The way that it works for the advertisers is that we would then sell this space to advertisers who have an ad that would fit that space. And the more viewable they are, the better it performs for the brand. The brand wants more and more people to actually see the ad and engage with the ad. So at the moment, the engagement is limited, but what we measure is how much the ad has been viewed, whether it's just being in the field of view, the area that it represents compared to the rest of the game. So of course, it's better if it's closer, but also using gaze tracking, we can actually capture exactly the kind of engagement that happens with the ad. And that is only useful for the advertiser to know, okay, I had 100,000 people in this game that have actually looked at my ad for a certain amount of time, meaning, okay, it's performing well, it's a good app, there are people that are interested, and therefore they're willing to buy more. So this is a great example of an ad, because if you're racing here, you can see that you would see the ad for a long time as you approach it on the road, and it's present, and it's going to occupy a large-ish piece of your field of view. We could talk about a bad example, which would be if I go here and take it on this side, you can see that this would be kind of a bad idea to place a banner here, although of course I could, just because the road is parallel to it, and therefore there's not going to be much screen view for this particular ad. So of course, you're totally free to place as many ads as you want. They will serve real ads, but eventually these ones will serve ads at a lower value, or brands will stop buying altogether if they can't see that there is any result, any engagement. So it's always important to think, it needs to work for the brand. They are the one paying the money, so we need to make sure that there's some engagement to it as well. So I just removed this one because it's not the one that we want. Right, so what can I show you? So yeah, I can show you a couple of other things. So let's move to another part of the track. I believe this is here. So what's really cool about Admix is, again, there is a lot of freedom for the developers to basically do whatever they want with it. As soon as this ad is within the scene, it really becomes another object, and you can completely control it. Just like you control your objects and your scenes, you can also control your advertising experience. So, right. So let's go here for a minute, and you can see that now I have this kind of curved area, and I would want to place an ad on top of that because it just makes sense. It's in the curve. It's really well. The viewability there is going to be good. So I can select a size maybe like this one, and I can try to place it. And always the idea is to make it as native as possible. But you can see that here we kind of reach a little problem because it's a flat ad and it's a curved surface. So this is just a quick example to show that we actually can deal with this by curving the ad. So first, I would kind of put it here in the middle, move it a little bit across. Right, let's do it like this. And then from the inspector window, you have all kinds of standard transformation that are available by default from Unity, but we also have our own system where you can apply different kind of customization to that particular ad. So in this case, what I want to do is to curve it. So curving is here. I want to curve it in the y-axis. Okay, it's the wrong side, so I'm going to make it convex. And then it's a bit blocky, so I'm going to just add some triangles to do a smoother curve. All right, so again, it took me about 20 seconds, and you can see that hopefully now it fits. Okay, it's still a bit far, but you get the idea. It's going to fit the curve nicely after a real developer would be done with it. And so this is just an example of everything we put in place for the creators to be able to control their experience. Another cool one is the shaders. If you say you have a building with a brick wall and you want to feel like the ad has been painted on top of the bricks, well, you can upload your own brick shader or use an existing one and really make the ad fit and merge with the environment. We have a couple of other cool stuff. Here we have some events that are fired when the ad has been seen or when the ad has been interacted with. So you can link any type of custom script to, say, add in-app currency to a user who has interacted with the ad in some way. And in the future, you will be able to build your own UI around it and to notify users like, okay, you should interact with this because you might, gain some diamonds or coins or whatever. So again, this is stuff that is coming from our developers that use our solution and wanted to have a way to reward users based on our ads. So we implemented it. And so from now on, our goal is really to, we have the basic solution, it works. Now we're just adding more and more ways, more and more customization for the creators to be able to place those ads as natively as possible in the content. What we found is really interesting is the more we do this, the more tools we give them, the more ads, naturally the more ads they end up putting in their applications because they know that these ads will not disrupt the users. And this is why we call it non-intrusive advertising, right? What people really hate is not seeing an ad per se, is that their main action is interrupted by it. So it's, you want to watch a YouTube video and you have to sit 5 seconds, probably times 2 now, to see the 2 pre-rolls that are playing before. Or you're in the middle of the game and something pops up. Or even you're just playing a game and there's this annoying thing at the bottom that you can't remove. That's a very, very different, annoying experience compared to just walking in the street and you have a billboard here. No one is really annoyed by that. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily something that you love, but you're free to continue walking or walk away from it. And sometimes it's interesting. So this is the experience that we're trying to bring here. This ad will never interrupt. They will never intrude on the experience. Instead, they're meant to actually add value. And in a lot of our games, whether it's racing games, sports games, first-person shooter that takes place in a city where the developers already have fake ads anyway, it actually adds real value because the ad would be location specific and generally something that the end user could enjoy. What do we have? So basically that's it. You get the idea. You basically can place as many ads as you want, and then from there, when you're done, you can simply save your scene, and then you would save your placement. Doing this is really when you kind of lock the inventory within your scene. So we're basically saving it to our servers, looking in the position, so that then we can send that information to the advertiser, and they would know exactly where to place the ad. So that's pretty much the SDK in Unity. Now the rest of the setup happens on the web. So once that's done, you can basically click Finish Setup. And that opens our developer platform, which is a web platform where you can see all the apps that you have created with Admix. In this case, we're talking about Track Demo AWE. We have different status for this app. So right now it's off. It's not serving any ads. And from there, I can manage the placement that I have created. As expected, we have two. We have the first banner and then the curved banner. They have a unique ID, and it tells me that it's a banner ad. I could go in and say add a third one. Right, let's do that actually. I actually had this prepared. So, of course, you can place ads on areas of your game or app that is, just there, ready to go. What we found really exciting is that some of our developers actually are building stuff on top to accommodate for ads, and we have a really great example of that actually on our stand right now with like a hot air balloon that has been created especially to put more ads on it. And so an example of that here would be, to add this kind of billboard that was not there currently in the scene, but I can, bring it down a little bit. Right, I'll put it here, and then from there I can add just another quick banner on top of it. Right, so I'll put one of this, put here, boom, all right. And now I click Save Scene, and I can save placement, and if all works fine, we should see a third placement appearing now in my dashboard on the web when that's done. And so, as you can see, it's not something you have to do once and then it's done forever. You can keep playing with it, adding more advertisement if you want. Go back here. Right, no, we have three. Right, so these three ads by default are live, but you can actually disable them if you want. So again, the reason for this is it's not something that you need to kind of really think ahead before the app is live. You can just place a lot of different inventory within your application. You put your app live in the store, get it downloaded, and then you can still manage everything live from here. You don't need to push an update every time you need to change something. So we always recommend developers to actually put more spaces and then just disable them. When they're disabled, they don't take any memory, any space at all. But if you start seeing that it actually works well, you can just re-enable the ads to start maximizing your revenue. Another thing that we are putting in place now is the categories. So in this case, it was a racing game. So of course, I would want to have ads that are relevant to my audience. So I can choose automotive. And this means that we will prioritize selling this to automotive advertisers. If we don't have one, then we'll default to other categories. But in priority, we will try to look for those type of advertisers first. You can even go further and have subcategories. All this stuff is standard. There's a advertising governing body called IAB, the Interactive Advertising Bureau, and they've put these categories in place for web advertising. We're just tapping into that. So when you have done this, you can do the same for all of your scenes, of course, and then effectively you can go in sandbox mode, which will start serving test advertisement. But the exciting part, of course, is that when you're ready, everything is set up, you can go live. And to go live, the only thing you need is to have an app that is actually somewhere in the store. It could be Google Play Store, iOS, Steam, Oculus. You can place your app URL here so that we can double check that the app is actually live, it's a real app. And then you submit it for review. Our team will get a notification, would download the app, and then in the first 24 hours, you can already expect to see revenue coming in. The revenue then would build up probably over 3 to 4 weeks to really become full force as more and more advertisers learn about your solution. And I'll explain how that works in a bit. The last thing you can do on the platform, besides the obvious of adding some your app URL and some information about your application, is actually see the reporting, how much money you've made. So I'll take a real app for this. Take this one, for example, Vegas, and see the reporting. It should come load in a minute. So this is the last 7 days, last 7 days. So we count, the number of ad impression, how many people have actually seen this ad. So here we have 3.9 million. Net revenue to the developer, 1.4 thousand. Uniques, we're not doing that yet. This is the number of unique users. And then this is actually not the correct calculation. I'm showing you an old version here, but it shows how much we've been able to sell, basically, of the total inventory and the average cost per 1,000 views. The point here, you have access to your reporting. You can see how you're performing. It's a live reporting, so as soon as you plug it in, you start to see some figures. You can compare with the previous periods, and then you can basically withdraw your money on a monthly basis once you got started. So this is something that is fairly new, the reporting, and we're actually building a much, much better reporting where you'll be able to really kind of handpick parameters and plot different graphs to really maximize your understanding of the advertising experience and maximize your revenue. That's about it in terms of what Admix actually does. We really are trying to have a really, really simple platform. So you can see the SDK is something that literally can get installed in 2 minutes and set up in, if you have a large scene, maybe a few hours at most. There's no coding required whatsoever. And we have a pretty comprehensive documentation platform as well that really talks about, help every step of the way, from downloading the plugin to different features of the Admix plugin, how to do rewarded ads, for example, how gaze tracking is working, different stages of the developer platform, the off sandbox mode that I've shown, as well as some more optimization related type of question. For example, okay, I'm starting to generate revenue. What's going to happen? What can I expect? And so I've explained before that this is a process that takes some time, and this is actually a real application, a small to mid-size application. You can see over the course of 4 weeks that every week, the revenue becomes higher and higher until it reaches its peak. We can see the weekends here that are always higher, that are always kind of peaking on a weekly basis. So that's the SDK, that's the interface that you guys have. How much time do I have? Half an hour, cool. So the next step I want to talk about a little bit, I can't really show much about it. It's actually how we are actually selling those ads. So this is obviously something that happens in the background. It's a programmatic system. We have our own supply-side platform. What a supply-side platform is basically aggregating all the inventory created by all our developers, all these spaces that are available, and then we sell that to ad partners, such as Google, Verizon, AppNexus, OpenX. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of these companies. They're basically big advertising companies that have hundreds of thousands of brands going on their platform to book campaigns on the web and mobile. And now, through Admix, they can also target VR, AR inventory. So we are the first one bringing VR, AR applications to the world of programmatic, meaning that these apps, any app that is on our platform, gets a huge exposure to literally hundreds of thousands of brands. And the interest is really picking up. So, we really got started at the end of last year in terms of being fully programmatic, and it took us about 4 months to get the first campaign up and running with National Geographic. And since then, it really skyrocketed. And over the first 6 months of this year, we announced over 200 advertisers, 200 brands working with us. And now it's closer to 1,000 over the course of the year. So because it's standard, we are integrating with the platform that brands already know. It's very easy for them to target new environments. And the beauty of it is our theory about advertising being non-intrusive actually works for them as well. they are generating a lot higher viewability because viewability on the web is how long the ad has been seen on the screen. And if you're like me, when you read an article, you don't really stop to look at the banners on the side. You keep going. So viewability on the web is under a second. In VR and AR, we're around 5 seconds, 6 seconds per ad. And again, they don't intrude or they don't interrupt. But for the brand, it's great brand exposure. So this inventory is really easy for them to target, and it performs a lot better than what they are used to. And last but not least, we are able to reach an audience of millennials or even younger generation that they are struggling to reach on traditional channels. So for the brand, we really hit the sweet spot 3 times, which is why more and more spend is going in this area. And more spend means more revenue for you guys, the developers, which is the really, really exciting part. So that's how we're selling inventory. So to go into a bit more detail, we are selling it on an impression basis, meaning that every time one of your users put the headset on, or if it's not VR and AR, if it's just a mobile game, it works just as well. Every time an empty space pops up, we send a request to advertisers. If they want to buy it, they can fill this space. That happens in less than 200 milliseconds, so the user wouldn't see that the ad is initially empty and then gets filled. It's all automatic. Just like on the web, when you refresh a page, the ads are actually not part of the page. They are being called from different sources, exact same way. And then basically every impression that you generate, which is a user seeing your ad, means a tiny bit of money for the developers. We are sharing that money, of course. We are taking a 20% commission at the moment, and the rest is just net revenue direct to you. Yeah, some stats. I mean, we have really starting to grow at the end of Q1 this year. I think by Q1 we had about 40 million impressions, available impressions, which is the size of the inventory created through our applications per month. And now we just passed 700 million, and by the end of the year we'll have over 1 billion available impressions per month. So, oops. Cool. So it's fair to say that it's really heating up. There's more and more interest in the space on the publisher side, of course, creating more content, more users in them, and as a result, brands being more and more and more interested. Right. Where are we with this? So I guess that's really what I wanted to talk about for this. I can show you a little video. Maybe we have Kevin from our team here that can maybe show how that actually looks in the headset if you have the demo. In the meantime, I'd love to show a quick video, 2-3 minutes, which is really a testimonials from our existing developers, and so you can actually see the ads in action. I will need to stay plugged in for that though.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yep.
We started experimenting a bit with ads, so we were like, okay, we have...
Why is this coming back? All right. So there's sound as well for this.
We started experimenting a bit with ads, so we were like, okay, we have quite a few users. How can we be less intrusive than having pop-ups constantly with, you can buy this stuff. Admix sounded very interesting because it was seemingly easy to use when we read about it. Within half an hour, I believe my colleagues had things running.
The Admix dashboard is really similar to the Unity dashboard. So as a developer, it's easy to understand.
We decided to go with Admix because this is one of the first solutions on the market which we've seen that literally makes sense and which is created by creators for creators and gives kind of an ultimate freedom for users and for the developers to integrate non-intrusive advertisement into the VR apps.
It's crossplay and 3D, so it gives sort of flexibility and freedom to game developers to decide where to put it. I think it's quite promising for game developers, especially for small indie ones, just to get some exposure, I suppose, and some other sources of revenue.
So, with Admix, every developer can place a branded item inside our scene, inside his scene, on his land. Then Admix goes and sells that inventory to the advertiser. And one of the strongest selling points with Admix, you as a developer, you don't need to worry about all this backend and all this inventory selling to the advertisers. It just works. You put the item in, and at the end of the day, you get paid. That's it.
Right, so that's a really critical point. We not only allow you to create the spaces, of course, but we handle the sales process, which is, of course, something that a small studio wouldn't have the capacity to do. So it's completely transparent, and then you just have to basically watch the money come in every month. Just to show you that experience, it's a bit, stay still.
I'm trying to stay still. Okay, so this is a really simple tech demo, and I don't drive, so forgive me if I crash. As you can see here, we've got the tower where Sam placed an ad. So as I'm racing down the track, the ad is in full view. Hello.
That's it.
Oh, I'm gonna crash. Ah. Oh.
Well, we get it.
Don't let me play.
We get the idea. Well done. Yeah, so you get the idea. As you start playing this, you're going to kind of realize where should we place the ads so that they make sense. So it's really a refining process where you can really learn a lot from your content and how people consume it to make sure that the placements are in areas where people are most likely to actually watch them. I'll take that back. So now we have one of our developers that actually works with Admix, starting to work with Admix, who I wanted him to give you a little bit of a quick presentation of what they do and how Admix can work with them. I've shown you some kind of basic stuff where you're a developer, you place ads in your game. That makes sense, but we can go a lot further than this. We're building a real platform that can be integrated with all kinds of content, and that's what Arthur is going to show here. But before I go, I just wanted to quickly mention that we're also more than just a monetization platform. We're trying to build a full ecosystem to support the creators. So Admix is, of course, our main business. We also own VRFocus.com, one of the largest news websites for VR and AR, and VR AR Pioneers, which is what Steve was mentioning before. We have a community on Facebook with 10,000 creators. We're sharing a lot of information there to help people scale. And from there, we figure out what people need and then try to build a solution for it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we are at booth 402.